Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about the grayscale trusts and how the crypto market could potentially be getting ready to sell off big, and how this could be potentially the last big dip buying opportunities we are going to get in this space. So let's get it. All right. So first thing I want to go over with you guys before we go over our portfolios is we're going to go over BTC. And again, this does matter, but we will talk about this in depth in a later video. So as you guys can see here, we did have, of course, again, bearish divergence, RSI moving down, price moving up on Bitcoin. That was an early indicator that maybe this thing was going to reverse. And that's exactly what it looks like it's done. Again, the Fed is going to have their FOMC meeting today, so they could just come out and be like, oh, no, guys, it's all good. And then the markets pump like 5 or 10%. We don't know. Or in crypto's case, maybe it pumps like 20, 30, 40%. We have absolutely no idea what Powell is going to say, but the jobs data looked like something that was very not what the Fed wants to see, and also inflation had a tick up on the last CPI reports. So anyways, so the short and the quick of it here that I want to tell you guys is, as you guys can see, we have a MACD death cross forming. It's very small. You can barely see it, but you can see the red bar here on the histogram. Again, the histogram is kind of this green and red wavy looking thing down here below the MACD EMAs. The last two times that we had this MACD death cross, there was huge, massive drops in crypto. Okay, so from the swing high here to the swing low, you're talking about 56%. And then, of course, the following one we all know was when the Fed raised rates and the bear market kicked in on crypto. And, of course, Bitcoin went down a massive 77%. Now, am I trying to say that this is going to cause crypto to go down 77%? This is the end? No, but I do want to point this out. This has been a very accurate indicator over time. So again, the MACD, this was kind of like a mini bull market, and it wasn't perfect back in 2019, but it did more or less hit almost exactly the top. So I think from that level to the top here was about an 18% drop, as you guys can see, or so. But all the way down to the swing low there, of course, you had your 2020 pandemic, about 70%. And again, one more time, I want to reiterate it over here on this top. So again, this is not perfect, but it just goes to reiterate the point that there is a strong possibility at this point that we may see a sizable correction in crypto and Bitcoin in general. Again, Bitcoin does move the market. The market's been hot ever since the spot Bitcoin ETFs, and this thing has run up well in advance of when it's supposed to. We're not supposed to be at these prices until roughly around November, December of this year, maybe even January of next year. So kind of what I suspect is going to happen is a pullback in time. Pretty much what we're looking for is to hold this trend line here. So current price is about 52,000, and then below that 36,000. Again, 36,000 is possible. I'm not trying to scare you guys when I say this, but this MACD death cross has only popped up 5 times throughout Bitcoin's history from 2017 until now, and every single time it's led to a substantial drop in the price of Bitcoin and crypto. So what I want to say here is what I think is going to happen is this will be kind of a mid-cycle peak. We'll see maybe like a 30. Well, it's hard to say exactly how deep it's going to go, but we may see a sizable correction, okay? And then we'll probably go up again towards the end of the year when the Fed starts cutting rates. If I had to guess, that would be my guess as to what's going to happen. Again, we told you guys before that either we could retest this to support, bounce, take off, kind of chop sideways, get a pullback in time, so to speak, and then do kind of this, as you guys can see the squiggly line up here, and then go straight up from there. To higher levels, which it does seem like is not likely at this point. Again, we think this little markup phase should be closer towards the end of the year. It's not going to happen anytime soon. Or we get a sizable correction, and then we basically not only do we get a sizable correction, but we get a pullback in time, so it kind of dumps, then it chops sideways for a little bit, and then towards the end of the year, we kind of get something like this, and then Bitcoin starts ripping to the upside at the appointed time that it's supposed to. So just wanted to show you guys that real quick so you know what's going on. And again, if Bitcoin dumps, 20, 30, 40%, that could ultimately lead to both altcoins and the Grayscale Trust getting completely tanked. As you guys can see, a lot of them are down, maybe with the exception of this one right here and Zcash. And we also have the FOMC today. So, Jay Powell could come out and be like, well, we're considering raising rate. If they say anything like we're considering raising rates, I can just tell you guys right now the markets aren't going to like it and they're going to want to sell off. Okay. So before we get into LTCN, of course, we want to be completely transparent on this channel with you guys as much as possible. So we have actually decided to sell out of LTCN. I know you guys are probably going to be shocked. Oh, what do you mean you sold? You say it's going to go to $300, $400, $500? Yes, it could. It could. Okay, absolutely. But again, the Bitcoin indicator on the MACD is telling me that if it pulls back, I'm going to be wanting to look to get LTCN again, kind of at these lower prices down here. And I mean, what you guys choose to do with that, that's up to you. We already have, even without LTCN, we have a lot of money invested in the crypto space. Okay, it's well over 5 figures between everything. So we're not really too concerned about it. Again, we did take profits on LTCN, so our average cost basis was around $13. We might actually be able to go back and look at this. I'm not really sure. Okay, it's not showing up here. Let me see if maybe I can do like past 60 days or even 90 days, something like that. Okay, well, whatever the case. So our average cost basis was roughly about $13. So we sold. You can see the amount here. We got out of our entire position again because, oops. So that wasn't supposed to happen. I'm not sure what that was, but yeah. Anyways, so we got out of our entire position, and the total profit we made was roughly. So the amount we have invested was about $5,000. I think it was $5,000.79 exactly. So. The total amount that we made was about $5,454 or $55, something like that. So pretty sizable gain. But again, I mean, just going back to the Bitcoin chart one more time, and we're going to go over this in a separate video, but I really need you guys to understand this. If you guys are looking for a pullback opportunity, it's here. We may see lower prices. Kind of just depends. And this could be a fake out signal. Okay. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It could be a fake out signal. We have 4 days left to go on Bitcoin. This thing could just, reverse and the price could go straight back up based on what the Fed says. That's possible. We just don't want to risk it. And besides, we can roll our profits from LTCN into other grayscale trusts too. We did talk about rotations on this channel. We want to do it. We're not just interested in talking about it when it makes sense to do it. So, but again, you guys can see on the MACD every single time this has happened. I mean, we've had a pretty large correction. So let's now go ahead and get into the Grayscale Trust because I know that's what you guys really want to hear about. So let's take a look at this. Zoom out here a little bit. And just so you guys know, the FOMC is going to start in roughly about 40 minutes. The market's probably going to get pretty volatile. So if you see the prices start moving a lot, then you'll understand why that is. So LTCN is pretty much at this buy zone with the MACD death cross on Bitcoin. If we do see lower prices on altcoins, it's possible it could come down to this level. So this level down here is about 13 to 15 bucks, somewhere in there. The current support is 2370 to 2650. And for those of you guys that are really bearish on this thing, you think it's going to go even lower, which I really highly doubt is going to happen, but I suppose anything is possible. Again, we do have these trend lines here, which we have something similar on Bitcoin. These are kind of macro trend lines. So if it breaks this support, might maybe stop at like 15, 16 bucks, something like that. And then the one below that is roughly about $8. So support below this level here is going to be $7 to $8. Again, if it does go down that low, we're absolutely going to be buying more because, that's like nearly a like a 70% discount from the current price, I mean, there'd be no reason for us not to buy it down there. So, but again, we have this previous resistance areas candles back here now turn support, so it's possible it could just bounce off of the zone. If we miss the opportunity on LTCN because we sold out earlier, we're going to stress it? No. Like we told you all before, there's essentially infinite ways to make money, so not too worried about it. But again, the highs are way up here, so something to consider. So like I told you all before, basically when we got the breakout here to the previous swing high on the wick high, which again lines up perfectly with this control bar back here, this big ugly red bar, as you guys can see, it's pretty huge, it's hard to miss. We got rejected off of that, but if we can get past that, then we'll probably head up to $75, and then which is this area right here, and then 100 to 150 after that. But pretty much what we're looking for is the replication of the previous move. So if we get that 262% move, I'm actually going to have to zoom out this so you guys can actually see this, because yeah, this is just how ridiculous crypto can get sometimes. So 265% from the breakout point would put us roughly around $126. It's not going to be perfectly accurate. We want to measure it based on when we have a confirmation breakout candle, but we don't have that yet. So it's going to put us somewhere in this range up here. So probably likely between roughly about $120 to $135 again, which is a pretty large move from here. That's about a 4 to a 5x, and this resistance up here is about $100 to $135. So I'm going to go over to the daily time frame here. I don't know why this thing is just being slow. Sorry about that, y'all. So again, we had the MACD death cross RSI. Another thing you guys could look out for to potentially get in at a bottom is these RSI lows here. So this is usually pretty helpful for picking a bottom on stocks, especially when you get like a low on the RSI or something like that, like back here is the ideal time to get in. But we are not seeing that currently on the daily yet. And if you want to see a potential reversal on the LTCN price, again, we want to see some kind of golden cross. So the reason I picked the 4-hourly time frame is because if we see a golden cross on the 4-hourly time frame, like right here, it gives us an early indication that we're also going to see it on the daily and the weekly time frame. But as of right now, it does look like we are about ready to have a death cross on the 4-hourly time frame. So looks like the last time we had a major death cross was right here. As you guys can see from this price, $18 back in December. So the drop was pretty big. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I mean, it was huge, 55%. So just be ready, peeps. It could happen. So again, we'll go over Bcash now, or not Bcash, BCHG. So again, it does look like it might potentially be failing the support. So if it does fail the support, let me just try to see if I can find some of these zones here for y'all. So if it fails that support, likely it's probably going to come back down to between $7 to $8. That's a pretty cheap price, I would say. Could it go lower? Yeah. I mean, it could go down to about $4 because you have all the support down here. But do I think it's going to do that? At this point, I'm not sure. I mean, Bitcoin, if it does drop, if Bitcoin drops like, 30, 40%, I mean, anything is possible at this point. So we'll just go ahead and list the zones out here for you guys if you want to see them. So you have at the bottom 34 cents to 87 cents, 245 to about 280, and then you have 380 to about $4, and then this one is 530 to 580, and we already showed you guys this one. So if this closes below this current zone, it does look likely that it's going to come down here. But until we get the confirmation, this is still support. So that's going to be 1017 to about 1260, and then 18-ish to about $20. And the swing high up there is $24. So the measured move from the current support, or we'll just even pick the current price, to the resistance is about 85%, 110%, and 143% respectively. And again, you know, we do have a MACD death cross on the 4 hourly time frames. So, excuse me. So until we get a golden cross, which again, as you guys can see here, very choppy. Market didn't really know where it wanted to go back here. So these EMAs in a sideways chop, they don't work so well. But if we do get a golden cross, it could be an early indication that the price is getting ready to move up. Starting on the 4 hour time frame, then of course on the daily and the weekly, we want to see a follow up on those EMAs as well. So again, we'll do this one more time for you guys. So when we got the breakout and of this downward trend line down here, the move was absolutely monstrous. It was a nearly 440% move on this one. So if we get something similar, let's just say maybe it breaks out over here in May or something. And again, I picked May because of the spot Ether ETFs. It doesn't necessarily have to correlate, but you guys can see the price would go up huge. It'd go up to about $70. So that'd be nearly a 7x on your money. So HZEN, this one is still not quite within the buy zone. I suspect if Bitcoin is about ready to tank the market, and then, you know, J-Powell is going to come out and say something really hawkish today that's going to sell markets off, which is a risk. It's a possibility. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think it is definitely possible at this point. Then there's a likelihood that these grayscale trusts could come into our buy zones and we could get the chance to buy on the dip for those of you guys that have some dry powder on the side. So 380 to about 420 on the support there, and then $6.90 to $8. The support below that is going to be roughly about $2.60 to $3 or so. And the wick high up here is 1050 or 1050-ish. So from the support zone to the resistance, it'd be about 74%, 100%, and 161% respectively. And do keep in mind, we do have a death cross forming here on the MACD, so that is something to consider as well. Also, same thing for ETCG. So ETCG has actually come down to this EMA, but it has not moved, which is interesting. So if it does not hold this EMA, in the event that it does not hold the EMA, the next potential point to pick up shares might be roughly around this 850 level. So you guys can see kind of these candle tops. We also have this little gap right here, which did get filled back here. But again, that was actually, I guess the gaps did get filled. But that could also be an important reversal point that people are going to look at, because a lot of stock traders do look at gaps to potentially get filled, whether they are swing traders or day traders, doesn't matter. So yeah, I'd say about 850. And again, I mean, Powell could come out and say something super dovish and the markets could just pop off 20, 30, 40%. In that case, we missed out on LTCN, is what it is. So from the current price, just to get back up to resistance, you'd be looking at about 60% to about 80% there. So GXLM, again, it might bottom out around the top of these candles, bottom of this trend line here at about $30 to $31. If it breaks that, it's hard to say where it could go. It could stop at maybe 20.5, I would say would be the next level, because that's where a lot of these candle bottoms here are. But if you guys really want to know what the support is, it's down between 360 to about 1170 here. And of course, we do have another MACD death cross. So 69 is the top. Funny how that works, right? I don't know if you guys know this, but Bitcoin was actually the previous top for Bitcoin before the one we just had was actually 69K. So it's kind of funny how that works. But so 60%, 77%, and 107% respectively would be your potential profit targets here. So ETH, it does look like it's wanting to come down out of this trend line. So I'm not going to lie, that kind of sucks. But the next potential buy area would be 17 to 18 bucks. Resistance is going to be 25 to 29. And again, the cup and handle, which I would say is still valid unless we get a close below this trend line on the weekly, is going to be all the way up here at 55 bucks. So from this trend line to the current resistance, you'd be looking at about 48%, 70%, and then you'd have 107%, 133%, 173%, and 214% respectively. So Zcash, this one's sitting perfectly in the in the buy zone. It's not as low as it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. But again, it does look like we might be about to confirm a death cross, so that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but on the weekly time frame, it does matter because that is a macro time frame. So we'll just go ahead and throw out the supports here. So 430 to 510. Below that, you're looking at roughly about $2.75 to $4, and then $7.30 to $8 and 10 and a quarter at the high there. So from the current price to resistance would be about 50%, 63%, and 108% respectively. GSOL, this thing does look like it wants to come a little bit lower. So if it gets below this wick, again, we might stop at about 230. At this point with the, there seems to be a lot of MACD death crosses on the weekly on all of these grayscale trusts and Bitcoin. So I would say likely we'll see the bounce probably closer to here, about 175 to 200. Because again, this is the most heavily traded zone, as you guys can see with all these candle bodies being traded here. And 581 is going to be the high up there. So from the zone to the high, you'd be looking at about 207%. Mana, yeah, this one unfortunately also has a MACD death cross, and that sucks because we just bought it. So as of right now, the support is still holding. You guys can see this buyer wick down here. So we did buy in the zone, about $1,000 worth. So 1780 to 2050 is going to be support. And then on the high up here, you'd be looking at about $70. And if we get below that, we'll probably hit the bottom of this channel here. So about 1130. I think it's too early to say if we're going to see that or not, but we'll just have to wait and see. So from support to the swing high, about 308%. And then from the bottom of the channel to the swing high, you'd be looking at about 518%. So GBAT, this is another one we were thinking about buying. To be honest, I'm glad we waited. So because again, Mana performed better than Basic Attention Token in the previous cycle. We did actually make money on both. But the metaverse seems to be a more popular theme. And again, it's kind of all based on the narrative. So whatever the most popular thing is, like AI or L2s or, I don't know, meme tokens, that's where the money is going to flow into. That's where all the people are going to put their money, is in the most popular things, typically speaking. So $32 on the high there. We did not stop at these candle tops. So that just kind of is what it is. So the current support we have now is 4.25 to about 520. And already told you what the resistance is there. It looks like we're going to hit that support. So from support to that swing high up there is about 600% move. So G-Link, we're getting into the support. That's, again, going to be between 65 to 84. And the wick high up there is $220. Excuse me. I don't know what's wrong with me today, guys. So 172% move to the upside from the top of support, and from the bottom of support, we'd be looking at nearly 233% move. So huge move up there. Okay, Phil G. Again, you have your high, your low, your lower high, and your lower low. That's indicative of a bear trend. It's hard to see on this chart because these candles are so ugly and they're so spread out. But that combined with the MACD death cross does tell me, in my opinion, that I think it likely is going to come back down and hit this heavily traded zone here, which is support now, as you guys can see. So that's going to be roughly about $37 to $40. And again, nobody wants to hear that that something they buy is going to go down in value, at the time that it's ripping to the moon. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that it's going to rip to the moon when it's going down. I get it. Okay, trust me, we've been in your shoes. We went through all this back in 2020, 2021. Okay, we know exactly what you guys are experiencing right now. We ourselves are also experiencing the same thing. Okay. The idea here is to, not financial advice, but to try to be like the smart money. Buy the lows, sell the highs. It's pretty simple. So again, the move from the zone to the high is going to be 820%. And then GLIV. And yet again, we have another MACD death cross. So roughly about 11.5 to 15 on support. And then the high up there is $80. It doesn't look like we're going to hold these candle tops up here, so I would say likely we're probably just going to come back down to the zone, would be my guess. So again, from the zone to the high is a huge move. You're talking about 461%. So anyways, this is our video on LTCN, BCHG, and the other grayscale trusts. Hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.